Good evening, everyone. Welcome to the Tennessee Thunder podcast, where we uphold the constitutional principles of small government, low taxes, and little regulation. Thank you for joining us. I'm your host, Stephany Davis, and we have a very special guest who's joining us here tonight, Mr. Charles Cook. Welcome to the podcast. So I want to give you a little introduction here before we get started. Charles was born and raised in Morristown. He and his wife, Jennifer, have been married for 31 years and have twin boys. He is employed by an auto parts manufacturer for almost 36 years. He started his journey in the conservative liberty movement in 2008 by working on a local Ron Paul for President campaign. How's that for a quick bio, Charles? Welcome to our podcast tonight. And how are things in Morristown?
Well, they're going good, and you said a special guest. I didn't know if how special.
You're always special when you join us, Charles.
Yeah. Well, thanks. Yeah, it's going pretty good. Just working and everything, and trying to stay busy, stay active, trying to have a work-life balance, and then my what I do as far as my activism and my podcasting and stuff. So it's enough to keep you busy.
Absolutely. Well, so tell everybody that's wondering, and we've had you on, I think, one time before, but for those of you who have not had the pleasure of meeting you and the honor of meeting you, tell us a little bit about how your political activism began.
Well, I kind of got started, in locally back in 2007. We had issue with property tax here in the city of Morristown. They wanted to raise our property tax a 40% tax increase. So that went through, and then 2009, I said, I'm going to run for city council. Got involved, didn't know what I was doing and everything, lost the election in a three-way race and lost pretty handedly. But I didn't go away. I stayed involved and everything, and then, decided to run again in 2011 in a four-person race. Lost that election by 24 votes. So, but still didn't go away. And then after that election, we had an issue here where the city mayor got. In that meantime, I've come involved with the Ron Paul campaign locally here in 2008, and started learning some stuff, about Ron Paul and following him, and I started learning that things that I thought I knew wasn't correct. Now I understand it more, but then it made me start questioning a lot of things. So 2012 rolls around. We have a issue here with the mayor. He gets elected. He wants to start making some changes on the boards and stuff that are appointed by the mayor. And we had a city council that decided to do whatever they could do to try to keep the man from making changes that he'd promised. So we had an issue where 10 years before that, the voters in Morristown voted to set up the rules for what the mayor, how he appointed. It was up to the mayor to appoint for these positions, and it passed by 70-something%. It approved by the voters. 10 years later, when the establishment didn't like the people, there was a guy on the utility board that was the chairman of the utility board. He was going to replace him, and that was the establishment guy. And so they fought tooth and nail. They fought him 21 cycles to keep him
Mm-hmm.
from replacing it, while they got a Republican state representative to carry a bill to Nashville to overturn that referendum that the people approved. And they
Mm.
done that and overturned the will of the voters to keep that man on the utility board, who is still there today. Okay.
Okay.
So when that happened, and we met with that state representative, his name was Don Miller. And when that happened, I was working a lot of overtime and stuff. And so we met with Don at a local restaurant here in town, Shoney's, as a matter of fact. And I just told him, I said, look, I'm tired. I'm not going to. He showed up. He said, I'm here to listen, but I'm going to carry the bill to overturn the referendum. And I looked at him. I said, look, I'm tired. I'm working overtime. I'll tell you this. We put you in that spot. You carry this bill. We will bring you home. And I left. I didn't sit and argue. And he carried the bill. It passed. They overturned the referendum, and we brought him home. That was
Mm.
my first introduction to doing something on the activist side and succeeding. And it got people's noticed. Well, about the same time that that happened, um, that was when they had LPAC, the Liberty Political Action Conference, in right outside of D.C. in Chantilly, Virginia. Um, that was all around the Ron Paul campaign and stuff. It all started with that. So that's when I went to LPAC with a friend of mine, and got introduced to activism training, and that's led me to where I am today.
Wow. Well, and that was just you basically deciding, hey, we've had enough, and you made a huge difference.
Yeah,
Is that kind of how it went down?
yeah, and so uh, it it's people getting involved and saying we've had enough, and then trying to do something.
So and I'm sure all counties have this, people get very bummed out and discouraged because they see the same things happening over and over again, uh, year after year, relative to taxes, regulation, and just growing government. And so we have a lot of people that have said to us, well, it won't do any good to go to those meetings, because they're just going to do what they're going to do anyway. So what would be your encouragement to someone who is kind of like, well, I could do something, but on the other hand, I just stay home because it's not going to do any good? What would be your encouragement to that type of person?
Whew, there's a lot there. Okay, so I understand it. It's like watching your favorite sports team get beat, uh, game after game after game after game, and never seeing no improvement. It beats you down. You become not a fan anymore. But you start winning, and people start showing up again. Does that make, from a sports analogy, does that make sense?
Yes.
Well, if you could actually make a difference, if you start having some wins politically, then maybe people start showing up and wanting to be involved in the process because they see the change. What you what people, they want to win, but they don't want to put the time and effort into winning. Okay, so it's um, that's what you got to do. If I look at it like deer hunting, you know, a lot of us people around here in Tennessee know about deer hunting. So you want that big trophy buck, but you don't want to go into the woods and put in the time scouting and everything, learning about deer hunting, what drives deer, what affects deer, what weather conditions do to them. You have to do the same thing in activism to be successful. So, and here's the deal: we're all busy with our lives. I'm a father. I've got kids. I've got a wife. I've got a full time job. I'm active in my church, so my time is limited. So I don't have the time to go to every meeting and sit there. And but when I see something that is on the agenda that I know that is important, then I show up and speak about it. I keep a mental record, keep a record of what's going on. And then when the time is right, yeah, you send the emails. You let your voice be known. But when the time is right to cause these politicians political pain for their action, then that's when you have to get active then. Because here's the thing: if you do, you can go to all these meetings, you can speak on the issues, you can send emails. It's like telling a child no. No, don't do that. No, don't do that. No, you're going to get hurt. Don't do this. Don't do that. If there's not if there's not punishment for your actions, then it all is in vain. But that's how you get people involved, when they see that you can do that and hold them accountable and replace these people. Does that make sense?
Yes. So for someone who says to me, well, that's all well and good, and I can go to the meetings sometimes, and we do have here at the coalition, we have a lot of for our small group, we have quite a few dedicated individuals that do go to the county commission meetings. Some go to the school board meetings. Some aren't able to do that, but they make calls and they write emails. What do you think is the most effective method of activism, looking at or comparing all the ways that you can reach out to your elected leaders?
Well, all of them, really, making calls and doing the emails. And all that's good. But ultimately, here's the thing. Let's let's go back to hunting again. So I can do all these things, but when I go to the woods to hunt and I take blanks with me, it did me no good. So you can do all these things, but if they don't pay a political price, let me restate that. Let me say it again because I'm blah, 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 blah there a little bit. If they do not pay a political price, they will not learn a lesson. It's like the child. When you tell it no and it never suffers the consequences, it doesn't learn. And that's why people get burnt out in politics. It's because they do these things over and over and over and never get any return on it. You have to take the step to say, I'm going to be the activist jerk and bust these people. It's, look, and it's really not being a jerk. It is exposing the truth. When you can tell the people, when you find a way, and there's ways of doing it, to put the truth in the people's hands at the election season, that's when you make a difference. That's when they look at you and say, oh my God, uh, they're putting mailers out in my district. You know, they let my voters here in my district know what I did. I did that 2 years ago. They're supposed to forget about this. Now they have a challenger, a primary opponent, and now you have activist citizens ticking off the voters and reminding them, hey, they raised my property taxes. Joe's a good guy, but he doesn't stick up for my property rights, or he's picking my pocket with property taxes. Does that make sense?
Yes. So for those who also question, well, I'll go to the meetings and I'll do what I need to do as far as emails and calling my elected official. Um, but there's nobody to run against this person. Um, what kind of stories do you have that showed how communities could put together a campaign for a local citizen that didn't really have a political bone in their body, but because there was no one else to challenge, they were successful at some point? And I've seen that. But
Yeah.
what qualifies a citizen to run for office?
25 signatures.
I like it.
That's the fact. Look, it takes 25 signatures of registered voters to get on the ballot. That's all it takes. That's all the qualifications anybody else has, because that's the only qualifications you have to match. I'll tell you a story. Um, had a We had a county commissioner here in Hamlin County that had been on the county commission 44 years. Okay. I had a gentleman come to me and he said, I want to run for this seat, but everybody's telling me I can't win. I can't beat this guy. I said, well, here's the surefire way to know that you can't beat him. And that's not run. I said, but if you run, we can put you together a little campaign deal. You don't have to spend a ton of money to run for county commission or whatever. If you know what you're doing, you got to get with someone who knows how to run a grassroots campaign to do it. Especially in these counties where there's not a large population. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So, or in the district, in the county district where there's not a large population. So we sit down at my dining room table and we put together a plan for him. Knocking on doors, buying a few signs, doing a 3 bullet points of talking when knocking on doors. And the guy that had been on the county commission for 44 years, I was 46 at the time. So I was 2 years old when he went on the county commission. We beat him.
Mm.
We beat him. It takes somebody who wants to run, or the better candidate is like, well, yeah, I really don't want to run. You know, the people who don't want power is usually the best people to put in place. Mm-hmm. It's those eager for it that you don't want to put there. You know what I'm saying? So,
yes.
Anyway, so the guy took him out and he was so upset. They were so upset about this that this county commissioner sold insurance. His secretary lived in the district as well and had her run as a write-in campaign in the general election because he was beat in the primary election, just because they were so upset that the guy beat him in the primary. That's the way these establishment people think. That's my seat. I dare you challenge me.
Mm-hmm. And you know, some other things that I've noticed in these county commission meetings especially is, and even the school board, is you always see people there that are lobbying to get those raises and salaries and whatnot. And so even when somebody goes in as a county commission, a school board member, and they're well-meaning and they say, well, I'm going to stop some of that stuff, and they get in there, then they begin to hear just the lobby for the school system or the lobby for the sheriff or the lobby for whoever's wanting increased taxes or money, which means most of the time your taxes go up. And when your citizens don't show up, you know, in a sense, when we show up, we become lobbyists for the people. And I always tell the folks here in Union County and across the state that they forget your voice when you don't go to these meetings. That's why it's so important for you to stay in their ear and in front of their face as much as possible. What say you on that?
Yeah, and that's true. But it also takes, this is why I say the person who really doesn't want to be in politics, doesn't want to be in office, but they're rock solid in their principles. I have the saying, uh, when you're going to debate someone or there's a debate about an issue, always stand on your principles, never waver on your principles. If you let the debate turn into the merits of the issue, your principles will lose every time. So you take someone, let's take someone like someone in a national level that I really like and admire, Thomas Massey. Okay. Thomas Massey takes a lot of heat because number one, he doesn't buckle. When it was the money during the COVID shutdown to automatically just say by unanimous consent, no, he said our Constitution is going to die if we do not make members of Congress show up in D.C. to vote. This is unconstitutional, and they dogged this man over. It said he was the most hated politician in America, yet he stuck to his principles and made them come to Washington and vote. He gets beat up because he stands up against the lobbyists from LPAC. I mean, not LPAC, APAC, the group for Israel. You know, because he just doesn't fall into sending taxpayer dollars to Israel or Ukraine or anywhere else. And so he takes a lot of heat over that. So the people that we're electing to these levels, we got to expect the same thing from them. How do, okay, they will tell you, no, I won't vote to raise your taxes. No, I won't vote to raise your taxes. We always question them at, will you vote to raise our taxes? Oh, no, no, no. Will you vote to cut spending? That's what we need to be asking. Because if they cut spending, they don't need to be raising taxes. We need to put them on the spot for that. So if we have people who stand on their principles and say, taxation is theft, we're stealing the people's money for, even though it's for this, it's, as Bill Clinton would say, let's do it for the children. Uh, that's the merits of it. Instead of saying the principle is taxation is theft, no, let's find a free market approach to raise this money.
That's a lot like I've seen some government programs over the summer that were designated to feed children that I guess needed meals or whatever. And a lot of folks that well meaning they say, well, this is a good thing. Well, yeah, it may be a good thing short term, but in long term, doesn't that contribute to inflation and increases in your taxes? And so a lot of people they don't realize how the two are connected. They see the deed as being a good thing, but they don't understand how their money is connected. And if, in fact, if you didn't, if you, I guess you'd say, decrease those programs over time, there would not be as big a need for those programs because people would have more of their own money. So people don't always make those connections, do they?
Well, no. And so who is it government's role to do that, or is it the church's role? This is the citizen's role.
Mhm.
I'm gonna get myself in trouble here, but that's the truth.
Mhm.
I mean, we have churches with multi-million dollars in the bank. Shouldn't they be helping out with things like this? Then maybe we're saying when the church communities are coming together and helping fund this stuff instead of taxing poor people to do this, then maybe the church is saying, okay, what are we doing as a community to try to lessen these people? But you don't get that from government because they want the people dependent on it because that means it keeps their job. in place.
And
Actually
has
expands it and hires more people.
and I don't know the history of it exactly, but I have heard people comment front that have lived many more years than I have. God knows there have been a few of those, but some of the old timers that are much older than you and I said, when they were kids, they remembered the church giving out more things than they do now. And what do you think has, I guess you'd say, made the church bodies feel that they don't have to do that anymore? Is it because the people that make those bodies up are overtaxed? Is that the issue, you think, with the churches?
No, I mean, how many churches do you know that give money that go to overseas?
Hmm.
It's
Oh,
because
yes.
there's a
Hmm.
lot of money that goes overseas
Hmm.
to these other countries. Churches are still willing to do that, but we're not going to the churches to do that. People, let's say, um, a lot of schools, a lot of churches helps out Kingswood School
Hmm.
um, there in Granger County. I think that's where it's located. Yeah. So, but if we had groups of churches who come together, this group is going to support this program. This group's going to support this program. Trust me, go through your county budget, line item by line item, and see all those nonprofits where your county budget is giving up all of these hundreds of thousands, if not millions of dollars to, you know, the Senior Citizen Center. Or that shouldn't be the role of government. That should be the role of the citizens and the churches to support that. But they don't want to go to the church and ask for that. They want that every year, that money steadily being paid to them from the government. And it works good because the politician can sit there and vote to do it and then walk away and say, we feel good about I feel good about myself because we voted to support all these nonprofits and look how good we are. Yet, okay, I'm gonna start preaching here. Yet they're the same ones that sit on the church pew on Sunday morning and say, thou shalt not steal.
Yeah.
And they tax poor people to do it.
Hmm. Absolutely. It's like a hypocrisy. And also some of these things you're talking about, these, like you said, people in the community that they contribute through nonprofits to, those folks are staffed by people uh, like the county senior citizens example or a children's center. Those are kind of like quasi government funded entities that take in taxpayer money and some
Mm-hmm.
fees as well. So then you have a kind of I guess you'd say the water gets muddied and you don't know where the money's coming from exactly unless you pulled a complete audit, and who does that, because then they don't want to look like the bad guy.
Yeah. I mean, you let's look at it like this. We have people who go overseas for mission trips, but you can't get them to go downtown on a mission trip.
Hmm.
You know,
Yep.
now, I mean, that's a fact. And now I'm not beating anybody up for doing that. I mean, for going on mission trips, they are trying to help poor people, but it's in a different country. But
Hmm.
the people are so used to, in those poor countries, they can't live off the government.
Hmm.
But here they do live off the government, and the government doesn't want that to change.
Hmm.
Because if there was, you would see people at the local government level saying, okay, let's get these church leaders in here. We're going to find a way to do a partnership with them. We're going to get them involved and let them start dealing with this. We need to get the government out of this. That's what you can do on a local level. But they don't want to do that because I gave away your money and I feel good about it. I done good because I gave away your money. And if you've seen a podcast that I did here locally about paving roads, our county commission gave away 4, 5 times more money in nonprofits than they did on spending money for asphalt to pave the roads. And that includes money that they get back from the state. I forgot 2 point something million dollars that they got back from the state from the gas tax uh, that comes back to the counties. But they only spent like $222,000 on asphalt.
Mm, mm. Well, so back to a little bit more about this activism. So,
Oh,
what is a good way that someone that is kind of sitting there, they know that there's something horribly wrong in our country? A lot of people are waking up. A lot of people want to know, what can I do to help? And we've tried to show them a few things here at the coalition. A lot of people have participated in phone calls and coming to our meetings and some, I guess they protest, peaceful protest. But you were talking about an event coming up here in August. Can you give us a little kind of a overview of about this event, this educational event, how it can
well,
help the citizen?
yeah, it's political leadership class, and basically it's an introduction into um, political activism, and it's whether it be it's political leadership, whether it's on the activism side or running for office. Either way, you got to know how politics works, and we all think we know how politics work, but we really don't because it's a numbers game. And until you understand that and somebody shows it to you, you know, then you don't comprehend it. You don't see it that way. This class will teach you to understand that it's a numbers game, how the legislative season works, whether it be at your local school board, county commission, city council, state level, or national level, how the legislative season works, and then how the election season works. And politicians want to keep those separate. What you're taught in this class is they have to be together. Okay. So
Mm-hmm.
you have to tie one with the other. Uh, when the politicians are running for re-election, they want you to forget about what they did in the legislative season. Yeah, I voted against that. I voted to raise your taxes, but I'm a good guy. You know, your mom knowed me for years. You know how it works, and that's how that works. Well, they want you to realize, well, yeah, he's a good guy, but it doesn't matter. The only thing that matters about these people is how they vote. They may be the biggest jerk you ever met, but they vote right.
Mm-hmm.
That's all that matters. That is all that matters. It's like a doctor in their bedside manner. The doctor may have terrible bedside manners, but he's a fantastic surgeon. And if something goes wrong, that's the person you want. Not visiting you in the uh, hospital room, but the dude's going to be good when you need his surgery. When you need surgery, he's going to take good care of you. Same thing as politics. That's what you want. So you got to understand this stuff. And I sent a guy from Morristown to Greenville, South Carolina to one of these classes. And he come back and he said, I'll never look at politics or politicians the same again because it opens up your eyes and your mind to a whole new world to understand this stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And the the instructor that we have scheduled right now to come and teach this class is one of the co-founders of this foundation. I know Kirk ever since I've got into this activism deal. He's a fantastic guy, and he's been from local campaigns and local activism all the way up to national activism. I think he cut his teeth in the right to work arena, so he knows how to do things, and he's seen it all. And the classes are second to none if you want to learn about politics from the activism side or from the politician side.
All right. And when is the date for this educational event?
August 17th, it's going to be held in Dandridge, Tennessee, right off at Interstate 40 at exit 417 at the uh, Hampton Inn up on the hill there, up in behind the Shoney's and stuff. That's where we're going to host it, and it'll be a great class. It's a small classroom. We can only seat about 30. We've already got it half full, and I'm hoping to have this thing filled up in 2 to 3 weeks.
Yeah, we're looking very forward to joining you. I've got to get on there and get my ticket before somebody else does.
Yep, yep,
They're
and
going
that's the
fast.
thing. Yes, they're going fast. People are wanting to know. Um, People are wanting to know how to get involved because they're sick of it, and um, finally, I talked a lot of stuff 10, 12 years ago about things going on because Ron Paul opened my eyes to it. And people in the liberty movement, Judge Andrew Napolitano, the Mises Institute, so many people, talking and teaching this stuff. And now you're seeing it all come to light. And 10 years ago, you couldn't tell a Republican that this stuff was happening because, oh, no, this is the United States of America. This stuff would never happen. Now they're like, oh, my God. And, and to the credit of Donald Trump, if they hadn't have done this stuff to Donald Trump and it be their candidate, they still wouldn't have believed it would happen. But it also happens on the local level and then the state level. And people are starting to see that as well.
My favorite excuse from people, and this was right up to last year, was I don't get involved in politics. And I said,
So,
well, if you don't get involved in politics on your terms, you're going to get involved in politics on their terms. And
yes.
the person looked at me like, she had a wake up call. But I guess people didn't think that out, that government could get so powerful that they're right at your door, basically causing you pain, especially in your wallet and with the taxes and the regulations and all the things that government likes to do in the dark of night to make us miserable. Um, and I call it being in a peasant mode when the government gets so powerful that they're tyrannical to the citizenry, and they make you feel like you mean nothing, that you're just a little speck on the map. But it's 3%. I mean, if 3% of the people would stand up and do the things we're talking about, it could make a huge difference. You can send a message, and like you said, send them home when things get like that.
Yeah.
So
Well,
what would you go ahead?
well, and you was asking about, the people showing up for a meeting and being involved. Well, here's what you got to understand. Um, what percentage of the population is actually LGBTQ, whatever they want to call it? It's less than 1% of the population. Yet they get their way. It's because they have activists and people who are well trained, who are willing to go to the mat to get their way. We got to get up off our sorry butts and do the same thing.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. And it doesn't really take that many people, but everybody's got to give it a whirl. I mean, people got to learn how to do these things that you're talking about. And it sounds like that this training is going to be a very good basic foundation for anyone who just wants to know what can I do on the local level, even if it's just at my county commission meeting. or at my school system, all these places that we know there's definitely problems. And maybe they could also think about running themselves. And this would be a good way to kind of measure where their principals are by coming to your event. That's why I'm so excited.
Yeah. Well, and like I said, this is politics is a numbers game. And when I say that, if I said, Stephany, how many people does it take to win an election? Most people would say, well, 50% plus one. It's not right. It's a very small number, and I'm not going to tell it
Mhm.
here. That's part of the training. But
Does
you
this
know,
mean we have to do math? Oh no.
well, actually, yes. I mean,
Oh.
but if so, all right. So I'll give you a little bit of hint. So if it's 50% of the population plus one, question: What's okay? 50% of the population. How many of the out of those can vote?
Well, depends on who's felons and all that stuff. Who's
Well,
qualified to?
exactly. So that plays into it. Children play into it, right?
Yes.
People who are not registered play into it. Not all the adult population is registered to vote. So now your numbers are ticking down, correct?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So if you have a partisan race, you have Democrats, you have Republicans, right? So now you've got registered Democrats and you got registered Republicans. Okay. So how many does it take to win? Well, you know, generally, I will say this: it's less than 5% to change an election.
Wow. That's getting closer to that 3%. Uh-huh.
Plus one.
Wow. Well, what do you think is contributing or has contributed to all this voter apathy over the last few elections? Do you think it's frustration, or do you think people just, I don't know, just got tired of going and not getting any, I guess, results that they expected? What do you think causes the voter apathy? Or is it just lack of knowledge of the political system and how it can help?
Complacency. Complacency. Comfortable. Uh, I I watch Dan Bongino a lot. How bad does it have to get you off the couch? Does it take your murder rate in your city to get about, certain percentage? Does it take your property tax going through the roof, your property rights being violated every time you turn around? You know, what you can do, people telling you that you have to wear a mask when you go to a restaurant, that your kids can't go to school, or if they do, they have to wear a mask. What did it take? How bad does it have to get people involved? How bad did it have to get for moms to get involved in school board, moms and dads in school board meetings? Well, as long as school was going good, everything was good. But when they seen that their kids were having, when they looked at the computer and seen when these kids were doing school online and saw what was being taught and what was being said, some of the garbage that these kids were being able to get in the school library, then they got involved because, oh my God, what are they doing to my kids? So it gets down to how bad does it have to get Charles off the couch? How bad does it have to get Stephany off the couch? It has to have a personal effect on most people before they get involved. And
So,
in the last couple of years, it's got personal.
so do you think that we'll see more and more citizens that we didn't know really, I guess, existed in our own neighborhoods? Do you think that we'll see more and more of those silent people rising up to run for these offices with the pain becoming greater?
Yes, if the more closer. See, right now, people are starting to see it. And I've had conversations with people who 2 year, 4 year ago would have never talked to me about politics, especially after the guilty verdict in New York. I've had people come to me and say, "I know you keep up with this stuff. That is BS. What they're doing to him. I don't get into this stuff. I don't get into politics, but everybody has to see that this is dirty. What they're doing to him." They don't have enough sense to see this. Democrats remind me of Pharaoh. Their mind and heart has been hardened, and they don't see what they're doing. Although, the plagues are coming and everything else is hitting the Democratic Party, and they're losing. People are seeing what this party has come to, but their hearts have been hardened, and they don't see it. That's what they remind me of. Does that make a good analogy?
Yes, absolutely. And earlier, when you were talking about the deer, going after the deers and all that, comparing it to effort, I was thinking about going to the gym, how hard it is for me to go to the gym and actually work to, say, lose 30 or 40 pounds. I mean, it's not easy doing it. Is it possible? Yes. But is it going to cause a lot of sacrifice and hunger? Probably. So, a lot of times people, they wait till they're pretty much hungry already before they take action. And so, or in my case, a lot of people don't work out until they're sick or until they got some kind of disease or something working on them that now they got to lose weight. So, I think pain, uh, I guess it's just human nature to want to, I guess, live it as comfortable as you can till you can't do anything else.
Yeah.
But great insight on that. And it does sound like that this is going to be a great day. Now, what are the hours for the seminar or the school?
Uh, 9 to 5:30. Uh,
9 to 5:30.
yeah, and and there's a charge if you register early, and I don't think I have the dates for the registering early. 3 weeks before, so it'd be about the end of July. It's $45. After that, it goes up to 60. Now that includes lunch and snacks and stuff as well. So we're not going to keep you there all day and not feed you. So, uh, look, I'm going to just tell you, $45 or $60 is a bargain. This is an investment into yourself if you want to learn how to do this. Just like your analogy there just a while ago about going to the gym. This is what people do in politics. So let's look at it as going to the gym. You need to get in shape. You want to lose weight. So you go to the gym, you jump on the treadmill, and you run as fast as you can. How long do you last? 2 or 3 minutes. Okay? Then you go over and you pick up some weights and you want to work out to make yourself stronger. And you pick up the heaviest weight you can get, or you work out a couple of reps, and then you're tired. Your muscles are shot. This class is kind of like the personal trainer at the gym. It's going to teach you how to do these things. You need to do this. You need to do that. These are the steps you need to take, and as what you will learn in this class is if you're not politically feared, you will not be politically respected. When you show up, when you get good at activism, okay, this is a fact. And I could tell you, it works. I've seen it in myself. When you get pretty good at activism, you get treated the right way. If you go to a county commission meeting, you see these people get up and speak and they act like jerks to them. But when the right person gets up and speaks, they don't treat them that way because they know they can cause them political pain. I do not want to mess with this guy. He will hurt me in my district. He has the ability to cause me political pain that I do not want to deal with. This is how this works. Question. In Nashville, who do you think they listen to more? The little citizen activist who walks in off the street, or the Speaker of the House? Who do they
Who
fear
does?
more?
The
Huh?
legislature? The
Yeah,
legislature?
yeah.
Well, I think that I've seen them kind of. I mean, they seem to kind of shake at a citizen sometimes, depending on the citizen.
Right. But most of the time, if the speaker sends somebody down the office and says Speaker Sexton wants you to vote this way, and if you don't, your your committee chairmanship is in the way, is on the
Hmm.
line.
Hmm.
Okay. But if you got somebody in that guy's district says, I don't care about your chairmanship, your
Hmm.
your job as a in the House of Representative is on the line when you come up for reelection, dude. I'm gonna come after you in your district, and I'm gonna cause you some pain. I'm gonna wake some people up, and I'm gonna let them know what you do. He's got to go back to the speaker and say, I can't do this.
Hmm.
This guy is gonna hurt me in my district. Now, please know that they're going to come back to you and say, well, Stephany, I tell you what, this is one thing you're going to learn in this class. They're going to say, Stephany, I tell you what, let's think about this. Let's put this off what you want to do. Let me go ahead and work with the speaker on this. And I'm going to form this exploratory committee, and I'm going to put you on this committee to look at this issue. And most people say, "Oh yeah, that's good. Now I'm getting something done." Well, what they did is just bought you.
They bribed you, and we see it all the time on the local level.
Yes. Now you see, I'm going to put
Hmm.
you on this board, and guess what? If you want to stay on that board, you can't speak negative anymore.
Yeah, you got to change your approach. That's the way they say it here.
Yeah. If you want to get, this is what you're going to learn in the class. If you want to get something done here, you can't do things this way.
Yep, I've heard that
Wrong.
before.
Oh, absolutely. So I tell you this quick story. I set in. If you take this class, once you take this class, you got access to set in on webinars a couple times a month,
Hmm.
and they'll have these webinars. Well, a young lady in Alabama with Moms for Liberty down there. I think she was with Moms for Liberty. She was mad because of what was going on in the schools. She got involved trying to get this garbage out of the school libraries. And so she started going through this process. Well, somebody said, "Hey, why don't you come to this political leadership school?" Well, what she found out in the political leadership school, she, you know, she was already facing. And then once she saw that, she said, "Oh, so now they're teaching me how to deal with this." She was able to win her fight. And this is a mother that stays home with her kids who got
Hmm.
involved, and she learned how to to how things work and why they say these things and what these things do. They're trying to buy you off. They're trying to shut you up. They want to scare you and go away. So if you believe what they say, what do you get from it? What do they get from it? That's what you got to learn. And that's what this class is all about. And as I said, if you take this class, you'll never look at politics or politicians again the same.
It definitely sounds very, very interesting, especially exposing all those little tricks of the trade, so to speak. I learned some of this when I went to, well, my brother was state rep, and I learned from Nashville some of the tricks they tried on him to get him compliant. As it didn't work for the most part, but uh, everything from threats to, I mean, they didn't come right out and say it, but they hinted that they would take certain privileges away if he didn't do certain things. And he was constantly battling with it, those folks down there. So, but that's been a long time ago, and I really need a refresher course. So I think we all do, and especially if you're just new to politics, and or if you're thinking about running for public office, I think this is a great start for you to really see politics for what it is, and you can handle it a lot better if you know what you're dealing with.
Yeah, and as it gets back, as we use two different analogies. One is going to the gym and working out, having a personal trainer. This is what this is. It's having that personal trainer to bring you in and say, okay, you need to pace yourself on this treadmill. You need to slow yourself down and do this. You need to do this amount of light weight and then move on to a little bit of heavier weight, to pace yourself. Stay away from this. You don't want to, it's those fights when you start having a little bit of success in a local level, and then people want to come and join your group, and they want to fight this battle. Part of them want to fight that battle. They want to fight this other battle. But you only got so many people and so much limited resource. You learn how to pick the battles that are most important,
Mm-hmm.
and that will grow your group. Not waste your time, talent, and treasure on battles that are really not that significant to most people. It might be very important to someone, but not for your whole group.
Right.
That's one thing you learn here too. There's the Red Fox 4, 5-column analysis, and stuff like that you'll learn.
Awesome. Sounds good. Sounds like it's going to be a lot of fun. Now, one thing that I always remembered, and then we're going to wind it up here. One of the things that I always remembered is that when you have these small community groups like what we've got here in Union County and across the state, um, and there's a few people in the community that actually get out and go to the meetings. It's pretty much the same people over and over. There's some people in that watch from afar, and they know that there's times that you're active in, at least perception wise, that you're going to the activism, you're doing the protest, and you're going to the meetings, and it's visual because now it's on the local media, whatever. But then there's these little lulls in between, maybe, I don't know, summertime after budget. There's these little lulls, and people just assume that you're not doing anything when actually the opposite is the case, because just because you're silent does not mean you're inactive. And teaching people that as well, that when you've got a lull like that, that's a time to really get busy with your research and do things. I always talk about after Christmas, because that's it's a good time to do research and that kind of thing. And people just assume, oh, well, aren't y'all going to do anything? And it's like, well, we kind of are. And would you like to help? So that happens too with small groups. People just assume that nothing's going on when there actually is. What's been your experience with that?
Well, and that's just like now. Okay, let's say we're looking at things on the state level. This is where the legislation season's done. If you're not involved in the election season and you got things that you want to see done or you need to be preparing for next year, this is where you learn to do plan, prepare, act, and evaluate. Okay, so we're planning for next legislative season. Now we got to prepare our plan. We got to get ready to activate that plan. And then we have to evaluate how that worked, good or bad. Hey, we had success with this. What made it successful? Most of the time when we win, we forget those things.
Mm-hmm.
Or it's time to reflect. Okay, We just finished this legislative season. We lost this battle and we lost this battle. What did we do? How did we do this? We planned it like this. We prepared our plan. We acted on our plan. Where did we fail? And this is not about pointing fingers at people. It's about finding the real issue of why we failed. It may not have been nobody in your group. Maybe it was because we had some politicians that we thought were with us that really wasn't, and they were the reason. Now, what are we going to do about it? This is activism. It's work. It's hard work.
Yeah. It's and a lot of planning and good planning at that. And you know, so it's just like anything in life. You can lay the best of plans, but you know, sometimes things happen that you didn't predict, and then you got to have, you know, you got to know how to react to those situations as well. So it's not always just textbook, you know, comes out like a classic textbook thing. It may go in a little different direction than what you thought, but ultimately you still win the war. Is that what
Yeah.
you're finding?
Well, yeah, and you know, plans are great, and you know, most people, you know, if you plan, you're going to plan for what you think you know, and then things will probably change, and then your plans go out the window. But
Hmm.
you still have to be ready, you know, and start doing it. But most people, uh, we how does the saying go? We don't we don't fail because we plan. We fail because we failed to plan, or something to that effect.
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
so
Because you can
so
also lay out scenarios there too that could go different ways if you plan
yeah.
right.
So that's what this class is about. It's going to help you become a better activist. It's going to help you be a better leader for your group. It will get people, if you got people in your group that want to come together, it gets everybody more on the same page, that you're not wasting people's money, you're not wasting people's time. People understand what your goal is and what you're trying to do, and help. It makes your effort go more towards the goal instead of being like a shotgun blast and it everywhere.
Absolutely. Well, Charles, is there anything that you want to say in conclusion to our evening?
Well, you know, like I said, activism is it can be fun when you're winning. It, you know, it's tough when you lose. I mean, you're not going to win every battle, but that don't mean you quit. But there's battles out there that can be won if you know how to fight it, and that's what this class is about. It will teach you how to do that, and it'll it'll give you the the great information to help you be successful, and I believe you will win more battles than you will lose.
Absolutely. Well, Charles, thank you so much for appearing on our podcast tonight. We're always happy and honored to have you here on our podcast. And also tell us a little bit about your podcast that comes on is it every week?
Well, I try to do one once a week, but you know it's not always that case because I'm, like I said, I'm busy, you know, and so I've got one in mind that I want to do this weekend, and it's kind of burning in me now. Some of the things that I'm seeing, and this took place back 10 years ago. That you're seeing it actually come alive now, and so it goes it goes with Judge Andrew Napolitano and why he's no longer on Fox News because of what the man said then and what's happening now. It was like he was a prophet. So
Mm,
that's what I, you know. So and what I have found is I've had some good guests and everything, but I tend to have more viewers when I'm talking about issues like this, and laying facts and truths out to people. People are searching for truth, and so if you give it to them, they seem to receive it pretty well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. We're like sponges. We want to learn all we can here in Union County. And I think a lot of people now are understanding more about why their involvement is necessary. They just might need a little guidance. And I think the training you're talking about is definitely a step in the right direction. Give them a good foundation to springboard off and hopefully affect their community in a positive way and fight for liberty. So, thank you so much, Charles. Again, it's been a pleasure as always. And please come back and join us in the future.
Give everybody a round of applause,
He's got that fancy stuff over at the Charles Cook podcast, ladies and gentlemen. And I don't really have anything except a little We the People behind me. But yeah, he's got quite the little, I guess you'd say, introduction to his podcast. So you guys need to get on there. I love to watch the Charles Cook podcast. And Charles, I do try to catch every one of your podcasts at some point during the week, even if it's not on the live. I play it in the car when I'm traveling. Yeah. And I absolutely learn something new every time I listen. And you have some very interesting guests as well. So we're looking forward to hearing more from you. And you're on YouTube, Facebook. What's all those handles that you have?
I'm on YouTube, Facebook, and Rumble for video. And then I'm on audio with, you can go to my podcast webpage at charlescookpodcast.buzzsprout.com, or you can find me on some of the audio platforms like Spotify, iHeartRadio. It used to be Google Podcasts, but they went away. So yeah, you can find me on those. I think it's Podbean, Podchaser. Some of those just. If you're on a platform, I'm not on Apple iTunes. I'm not on there. It's been too big of a headache for me to try to get on there. So I just said, heck with it. If they want to find me, they can find me. So, but Spotify and iHeartRadio is where I have a lot more of my listeners on there.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. You'll have to show me how it works. All right. Well, Charles, again, have a wonderful evening. And we want to wish everyone a great evening and tune in for next week's podcast. We'll be back at 8:00 next Tuesday night. I believe that's, is that July? I don't have the calendar pulled up here.
Should be next Tuesday, would be the 2nd.
Yeah. Oh, my God. July 2nd. We're almost at Independence Day. Oh, my goodness. Yeah, so, yeah.
Remember, Christmas is exactly 6 months from today.
Woohoo! So July the 2nd, we'll be back here with the Tennessee Thunder podcast. And we do have a special guest that will be on with us on that podcast. We will have more announcements next week. So anyway, everyone have a good night. God bless. And we'll see you next time here on the Tennessee Thunder podcast. Good night.
Good night. Thank you.